She ran toward a fallen stranger in the rain, only to learn he was the CEO everyone feared to approach. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. It was a cold, rainy evening, the kind where the gray sky seemed to press down on everything, and the city's streets shimmered with the relentless downpour. Cars splashed through puddles as people hurried under umbrellas, each lost in their own world. But for one woman, the chaos of the world around her faded as she focused on a single task. Emma was used to walking in the rain, but tonight was different. Her worn shoes slapped the wet pavement as she made her way to the bus stop, her thin jacket offering little protection against the cold. The world felt heavy on her shoulders, but she kept her head down, focusing on the sound of her own footsteps. Life had never been easy for her. The bills never stopped coming, the rent was always due, and dreams of a better future seemed so far out of reach. She had learned to live with the quiet ache of wanting more, but never being able to grasp it. Emma's thoughts were interrupted by the sound of a low groan, followed by the faintest of movements ahead of her. Her gaze flicked up to see a man slumped on the ground by the sidewalk, his body limp in a pool of water. Without a second thought, Emma rushed toward him, her heart pounding with instinct. She knelt down beside him, her hands trembling as she touched his shoulder. "Are you okay? Can you hear me?" she asked, her voice urgent but soft. The man didn't respond, and for a moment, Emma felt a pang of panic. She could see his pale skin, his soaked clothes clinging to him, and a deep cut on his forehead. Without hesitation, Emma reached into her bag and pulled out her phone to call for help. But something about the situation felt wrong. The man seemed out of place. He wasn't the typical person she would expect to see lying in the rain like this. She bit her lip, her eyes scanning the street, but the area was quiet. She was alone with him. "Hang on," she whispered, trying to stay calm as she gently propped him up against her. The rain came down harder, but Emma didn't flinch. She could feel his warmth, even through the cold, and she wondered if he was just another lost soul, struggling like her, caught in the whirlwind of life. The man stirred slightly, his eyes flickering open just enough to meet hers. For a brief moment, their gazes locked, and Emma felt a strange connection, like he was trying to tell her something, though his lips remained sealed. "Help is coming," she said, trying to reassure him. But then, without warning, the man's eyes closed again, his body slumping even further. Emma's heart raced as she looked around again, but there was still no one in sight. "Stay with me," she whispered urgently, shaking his shoulder lightly. And then, just as quickly as the moment had started, he seemed to snap out of his daze. His eyes opened again, but this time, there was something different. There was recognition in them, like he knew exactly where he was and who he was. Slowly, he shifted, attempting to sit up, though still clearly disoriented. "Thank you," he muttered hoarsely. Emma, slightly taken aback by his sudden awareness, nodded. "No problem. I'm just glad I could help." The man stared at her for a moment longer, his expression unreadable. And then, before she could say anything more, he whispered, "I think you just saved my life." Emma was about to respond when the sound of a car approaching interrupted them. It was a sleek, black limousine, the kind that didn't belong on this street. The driver got out and rushed toward them, his eyes fixed on the man she had just helped. "Mr. Parker," the driver said respectfully, helping the man to his feet. "You shouldn't be out here in the rain. Let's get you inside." Emma's head spun as she watched the scene unfold. "Mr. Parker?" She blinked, feeling a mix of confusion and awe. The man she had just helped was no ordinary stranger. He was Liam Parker, the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar tech company, someone she had only ever seen in the media. But why was he out here in the rain, lying on the sidewalk like a nobody? She stood there, frozen for a moment, the rain dripping from her hair and her jacket clinging to her skin. Her heart raced as Liam was helped into the car, but he glanced back at her, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Thank you again," he said, his voice still hoarse but sincere. The door slammed shut, and the limousine sped away, leaving Emma standing there, her mind racing. Who was he really? And what had just happened? She stared after the car, her thoughts swirling with questions. Emma had just saved the life of a man who everyone feared to approach, a man whose world she could never even dream of being a part of. But somehow, their paths had crossed on this rainy street. And now, nothing would ever be the same. The following days felt like a blur for Emma. The memory of the man she had helped, Liam Parker, lingered in her mind, echoing in her thoughts with every passing moment. She couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to him than just a random stranger she had come across on that rainy evening. But life moved on, as it always did. The bills still piled up, her job at the diner remained demanding, and her dreams of a better future seemed as distant as ever. She tried to push the thoughts of him aside, but every time she closed her eyes, his face would flash in her mind, the sharpness of his gaze, the quiet gratitude in his voice, and the way he had looked at her, as if she had done something extraordinary. It wasn't until a week later that she saw him again. It was a normal Thursday, just like any other. Emma had just finished her shift and was grabbing a quick coffee when her phone buzzed. She glanced down and saw a text message from an unknown number. It was simple, yet it sent a jolt of surprise through her chest. "Hi, Emma. This is Liam Parker. I hope you remember me. I'd love to talk to you sometime. Would you be interested in coffee?" She blinked at the screen, unsure if she was reading it correctly. Liam Parker? The same man she had helped that rainy night? Her heart skipped a beat. She sat there for a moment, staring at the message, unsure of what to do. Was this some kind of joke? Or was it real? She hesitated for a second before typing back. "Hi, Liam. I remember you. Coffee sounds nice." She hit send before she could talk herself out of it. The next morning, they met at a small cafe, a quiet, cozy spot tucked away from the usual hustle of the city. Emma arrived first, sitting down nervously at a table by the window, her hands fidgeting with the edge of her coffee cup. Her mind raced with questions. Why would Liam Parker, one of the most powerful CEOs in the city, want to meet with someone like her? She wasn't anyone special. She didn't have wealth, status, or connections. She was just a waitress trying to get by. As she sat there, wondering if she had made a mistake, the door opened, and in walked Liam. He was dressed casually in jeans and a button-down shirt, a stark contrast to the sharp suits she had seen him wear in the media. He looked around, and his eyes found hers immediately. He smiled, and for a moment, everything else faded away. "Hi, Emma," he said, his voice warm and inviting. "It's good to see you again." "Hi," she replied, standing up to greet him. Her heart was racing in her chest. "Thanks for reaching out. I wasn't sure if you were serious." He chuckled softly as he sat down across from her. "I am," he said. "I've been meaning to thank you properly for what you did for me. You saved my life, and I owe you more than just a thank you." Emma shook her head, feeling embarrassed. "You don't owe me anything. I just did what anyone would do." Liam leaned back in his chair, his eyes studying her with a level of interest she hadn't expected. "No, Emma. You didn't just do what anyone would do. You didn't hesitate. You acted when most people would have just walked away." He paused for a moment before continuing. "I've been thinking about that night a lot. About how you helped me without even knowing who I was. Most people see me as just a CEO or a billionaire, but you didn't care about that. You just saw a person who needed help. And that's rare." Emma wasn't sure how to respond. She had never thought much about her actions that night. To her, it was just a simple choice. Help someone who was in need. But Liam's words made her feel like maybe it had been something more. "I didn't expect anything in return," she said quietly. "I just thought you might need help." He smiled again, and it made her heart flutter. "I want to make it up to you," he said. "And I was wondering if you'd be interested in working with me. My company is looking for someone with your skills." Emma blinked, taken aback by the offer. "My skills? I'm just a waitress." Liam shook his head. "You're more than that, Emma. I've seen how you think, how you see the world. You're smart, kind, and genuine. That's exactly the kind of person we need. I'm offering you a chance to be a part of something bigger, something that could change your life." Emma felt a rush of emotions, confusion being the strongest of them all. She had never expected something like this. She had always thought that people like Liam Parker, people with power and influence, lived in a different world, a world she could never be a part of. But here he was, offering her a chance to step into that world. She wasn't sure if she was ready for that. "I don't know what to say," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "This is all so unexpected." Liam smiled reassuringly. "Take your time, Emma. I just want you to know that the offer is there. You don't have to decide now, but I wanted to extend it. Whatever you decide, I'll respect it. As he spoke, Emma couldn't help but feel that this was a turning point, that her life might never be the same again. But was she ready to take that leap? Was she ready to step into a world that had always seemed so out of reach? She wasn't sure yet, but one thing was clear. Her life had just changed, and she was about to find out just how much. The next few weeks felt like a whirlwind for Emma. What started as a simple act of kindness, helping a stranger in the rain, had turned into something far more complicated. Liam Parker, the man she had helped, had extended an offer she never imagined would come her way. A job opportunity at one of the most successful companies in the city, a chance to step into a world she had only ever dreamed of. But with every step she took closer to that world, the doubts grew. Was she really ready for this? Could she, a waitress with no formal education in business, really succeed in a corporate environment? She spent sleepless nights weighing the decision. On the one hand, the opportunity seemed like a dream come true. But on the other hand, it felt like an impossible leap, one that would push her far out of her comfort zone. The more she thought about it, the more she realized how much she longed for a change. She had always dreamed of something more than serving coffee and dealing with rude customers, but the safety of her small, familiar life kept pulling her back. Liam, on the other hand, seemed so confident in her. He believed in her ability to do something great, something beyond what she thought possible. She had never been given that kind of encouragement before, and it made her feel both inspired and terrified. A week after their coffee meeting, Emma found herself standing outside the sleek glass doors of Parker Enterprises. The building loomed in front of her, a symbol of the world she had never been a part of. She took a deep breath and stepped forward, the sound of her footsteps echoing in the quiet lobby. She approached the receptionist, a woman with a perfect smile who greeted her with a professional, yet warm tone. "How may I help you today?" "I'm here to see Liam Parker," Emma said, her voice steady despite the nervous flutter in her stomach. The receptionist's smile faltered for a moment, a brief look of surprise crossing her face. But then she quickly composed herself. "Of course. Mr. Parker is expecting you. Please follow me." Emma followed the receptionist through the lobby, her heart pounding with each step. The building was immaculate, with sleek, modern furniture and floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a breathtaking view of the city. She couldn't help but feel small in this grand space, like she didn't belong here. But she pushed the thought aside. She had come this far. She wasn't going to turn back now. The receptionist led her to a large office with a view of the skyline. Liam was sitting at his desk, his back to the door as he spoke on the phone. He looked up as Emma entered, and a smile spread across his face. "Emma, I'm glad you could make it," he said, standing to greet her. He gestured to the chair across from his desk. "Please, have a seat." She smiled nervously as she sat down, trying to ignore the way her palms were sweating. Liam sat back down in his chair, studying her for a moment before speaking again. "I know this is a big step for you, Emma. I want you to know that we're not just offering you a job. We're offering you a chance to grow, to become a part of something bigger. And I believe in you." His words sent a wave of warmth through her chest. She had never been told something like this before. No one had ever believed in her this much. "I'm honored," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I'm not sure I'm the right person for this." Liam leaned forward slightly, his expression sincere. "I wouldn't have offered it if I didn't think you were. You're more than capable, Emma. I've seen it in the way you approach problems, in the way you think on your feet. That's what I need here." She swallowed hard, the weight of his words settling in her chest. She had always doubted herself, but maybe, just maybe, this was her chance to prove that she was capable of more. "I don't know," she said, shaking her head slightly. "It's just so different from what I've done. I'm not sure I fit in here." Liam smiled, his eyes kind. "You don't need to fit in, Emma. You just need to be yourself. That's the beauty of this company. We value authenticity, creativity, and hard work. That's why I'm confident you'll do great here." Emma took a deep breath, feeling a surge of determination rising in her. This was it. This was her moment. She had come this far, and she wasn't going to let fear hold her back. "All right," she said, her voice steady now. "I'll do it. I'll give it a try." Liam's smile widened, and he reached across the desk, offering her a handshake. "I'm glad to hear that. Welcome to Parker Enterprises, Emma." As she shook his hand, she felt a sense of excitement wash over her, along with a lingering sense of disbelief. Could this really be happening? She wasn't sure, but one thing was certain. Her life was about to change in ways she could never have imagined. It had been 2 weeks since Emma had started working at Parker Enterprises, and every day felt like a new challenge. The world she had stepped into was nothing like the life she had known. It was fast-paced, filled with expectations, and the pressure was always there, like a constant weight on her shoulders. But she was determined to prove herself, even if she didn't always feel like she belonged. Every morning she would arrive early, determined to make a good impression. She had her tasks, research, data analysis, brainstorming sessions with the team, but it wasn't the work itself that made her feel out of place. It was the world she was now a part of. People dressed in expensive suits, talking about mergers and acquisitions, discussing strategies that seemed so far beyond her understanding. She felt like an outsider, but she didn't let it show. Not at first. Liam had been supportive from the start. Every time she doubted herself, he would offer words of encouragement, reminding her of her worth. He had an uncanny ability to make her feel like she was capable of anything, even when she wasn't sure herself. But it wasn't just the work that was difficult. It was also the unfamiliar environment, the high-rise building, the luxurious office, the quiet hum of powerful people making decisions. It felt like she was constantly swimming in a sea of expectations, trying to keep her head above water. One afternoon, after a particularly tough meeting with the board of directors, Emma found herself standing by the window in her office, gazing out at the city. The view was breathtaking, but it did little to calm her nerves. She had just made a mistake in front of the team, stumbling over her words during a presentation. It wasn't a huge mistake, but it was enough to make her feel self-conscious. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her shaking hands. The weight of her self-doubt was starting to feel unbearable. Just then, the door to her office opened, and Liam walked in. He looked as calm and collected as ever, but there was a softness to his gaze that made Emma feel immediately at ease. "You okay?" he asked, his voice gentle. Emma smiled, though it was forced. "I'm fine. Just adjusting." Liam walked over to her, standing beside her at the window. For a moment, they both just stared out at the city, the quiet between them speaking volumes. Then, without turning to look at her, Liam spoke again. "You know, I've been watching you. You're doing great, Emma. Don't let a few bumps in the road make you doubt yourself." Emma turned to him, her eyes searching his face. "But what if I'm not cut out for this? What if I'm just pretending to be someone I'm not?" Liam smiled, his expression soft but knowing. "You're not pretending. You're just learning. Everyone goes through this. Trust me, the people in this company, they're not better than you. They just have different experiences, and they've had more time to get comfortable." Emma looked down at her hands, trying to absorb his words. She wanted to believe him. She really did. But the fear of failure still lingered in the back of her mind, gnawing at her. "I don't know," she said quietly. "I feel like I don't belong here sometimes. Like I'm in way over my head." Liam turned to face her fully now, his expression serious. "You belong here, Emma. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." There was something in his voice that made her believe him, if only for a moment. She nodded slowly, trying to shake off the doubt that still clung to her. "Thanks," she said softly. "I needed to hear that." Liam's gaze softened, and for the briefest moment, she thought she saw something more in his eyes, something deeper than just the kindness he had shown her. But before she could dwell on it, he stepped back, breaking the moment. "Anytime," he said, his tone light again. "Now, let's grab a drink after work. You've been working hard, and you deserve a break." Emma smiled, her heart lifting slightly at the offer. "I'd like that," she said, feeling a small sense of relief. The next few hours at work passed by in a blur of meetings and emails, but Emma's mind kept drifting back to Liam's words. Maybe she wasn't as out of place as she thought. Maybe she could make it here. When the workday ended, Liam and Emma went to a nearby bar, a quiet little place that Liam had chosen. It was the kind of place where people could unwind without the pressure of the world watching. As they sat down with their drinks, Emma felt the weight of the day slowly lift from her shoulders. Liam seemed more relaxed here, not the CEO, but just a man sharing a drink with someone who had made a difference in his life. "So, tell me more about you, Emma," he said, his voice warm. "What do you want to do with all this?" She glanced at him, her heart skipping a beat at the genuine interest in his voice. "I don't know," she admitted. "I've always dreamed of opening my own art studio. Something small, where people can come and be creative, you know? Liam nodded thoughtfully. I think that's a great idea. You have the passion for it. Maybe one day, you'll get there. Emma smiled, her confidence growing just a little bit more. As they talked, she began to realize that maybe she wasn't so out of place here after all. Maybe she could find her way, and maybe, just maybe, she wasn't alone in this journey. It had been a month since Emma had joined Parker Enterprises, and the weight of the world seemed to be lifting from her shoulders. The transition from waitress to employee at one of the most prestigious companies in the city was far from easy, but she was adjusting. With Liam's support and encouragement, she was starting to feel more confident in herself. But as she found her footing in the corporate world, a new challenge arose. One day, during a meeting, Emma found herself in the middle of a project proposal that would set the course for the company's next big venture. It was a high-stakes project that everyone in the room seemed to be eyeing, and Emma's input was crucial. She sat there, her fingers tapping nervously against the table as she listened to the heated discussion. Liam had entrusted her with a pivotal role in the project, and she could feel the pressure mounting. She was used to small decisions, deciding which coffee to serve or which table to clean, but this was different. This was a decision that could affect the future of the company. As the conversation continued, Emma found herself lost in the complexity of the proposal. The financial jargon, the technical terms, it was all a blur. She had always been good with people, with connecting on a personal level, but here, in this boardroom, she felt like a fish out of water. She glanced over at Liam, who was sitting at the head of the table, watching her closely. His expression was calm, but there was a glimmer of expectation in his eyes. She knew he was waiting for her input. The room fell silent as everyone turned to her, and she felt her heart race. Emma. Liam's voice cut through the tension. What do you think? For a moment, she froze. She had no idea what to say. The fear of saying the wrong thing gripped her chest, and she could feel her palms growing sweaty. But then, she remembered something Liam had told her. Don't be afraid to speak up. You have a voice, and it matters. She took a deep breath and gathered her thoughts. Well, she began, her voice slightly shaky, but growing steadier with each word. I think we're focusing too much on the numbers. Yes, the financials are important, but we need to think about the people this project will affect. How will it improve the lives of our customers? How can we make it more accessible to them? There was a brief pause as everyone in the room processed her words. Emma held her breath, unsure if she had overstepped, but then Liam spoke up, his voice thoughtful. That's a good point, Emma, he said, nodding slightly. We've been so focused on the bottom line that we've forgotten the bigger picture. Let's look at it from a customer-first perspective. As he spoke, Emma felt a wave of relief wash over her. She had done it. She had contributed something valuable to the conversation. The rest of the meeting went smoothly, with everyone agreeing to approach the project with a more customer-centric mindset. When the meeting finally ended, Emma felt a sense of pride she hadn't experienced in a long time. As she packed up her things to leave, Liam walked up to her, his usual calm demeanor now mixed with something warmer. You did great today, he said, his smile genuine. I knew you had it in you. Emma smiled back, a feeling of accomplishment bubbling up inside her. Thanks, she replied, her voice soft but confident. It feels good to be heard. Liam chuckled, glancing around the room. Well, you've got a lot to say, and I think people are starting to listen. Just keep being yourself. As Emma made her way back to her desk, she couldn't help but feel a shift inside her. She had always doubted her abilities, but now, she was beginning to see that she was more than just a waitress with big dreams. She was capable of making an impact in this world, and the path she was walking was starting to feel like the right one. The next few days were a blur of meetings, brainstorming sessions, and late nights at the office. Emma was pushing herself harder than ever before, but she was also learning more than she ever thought possible. She found herself rising to challenges she never would have imagined taking on before, and each small victory gave her more confidence. But even as she excelled in her work, she couldn't ignore the growing feelings she had for Liam. They had spent a lot of time together lately, discussing projects, brainstorming ideas, and even grabbing drinks after work. Their friendship had deepened, and Emma found herself drawn to him in a way that was hard to ignore. It wasn't just the kindness he had shown her or the way he believed in her. It was something more, something she hadn't quite figured out yet. One evening, as they left the office together, Emma found herself walking beside him in the cool night air, the city lights casting a soft glow on the streets. She glanced at him, feeling a flutter in her chest. "Liam," she began, her voice hesitant, "I just want to thank you for everything. You've really helped me grow, and I don't know what I would have done without your support." Liam turned to her, his expression softening. "You've done all the hard work, Emma," he said, his voice sincere. "I just gave you the push you needed." Emma smiled, but there was an undercurrent of something else in his words, something that made her heart race. She wasn't sure what it was, but she could feel the tension between them growing. As they reached the corner, Liam stopped and turned to face her, his eyes locking with hers. "Emma," he said softly, "I'm proud of you. And I want you to know that whatever happens, I'll always be here to support you." Emma's breath caught in her throat as she stared into his eyes. There was something in the way he was looking at her, something more than just professional admiration. And in that moment, she realized that maybe, just maybe, their connection was deeper than she had thought. Emma couldn't believe how much had changed in the past few months. When she first walked into Parker Enterprises, she had no idea that she would find herself working on high-level projects, attending meetings, and getting to know Liam on a much deeper level. The fear that had gripped her when she first started was slowly fading, replaced by a quiet confidence. She had made it this far, and she was starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, she belonged here. But with that newfound confidence came a deeper, more complicated emotion. She had started to realize that her feelings for Liam had evolved into something more than just gratitude or admiration. There was an undeniable chemistry between them, a connection that had been growing since the first time they spoke. He had been there for her from the beginning, supporting her when she doubted herself and offering encouragement when she needed it most. He had given her the opportunity to prove herself, and she had done just that. But now, as they spent more time together, something else was blooming between them, something that neither of them could ignore. It was late on a Friday afternoon when it happened. Emma had stayed at the office longer than usual, working on a proposal for a new client. Liam had been there too, but he had left a little earlier, promising to grab dinner alone. But as Emma packed up her things, she realized she didn't want to go home yet. She wasn't ready to be alone. She picked up her phone and texted Liam. "Are you still around? I could use some company." She hesitated for a moment before hitting send, unsure if it was the right thing to do. To her surprise, Liam texted back almost immediately. "I'm actually still here. Want to grab something to eat?" Emma smiled at the message, feeling a flutter of excitement in her chest. "Sure, I'd love that." They met at a small, cozy restaurant nearby, a place Liam had recommended. The atmosphere was warm, the low hum of conversation surrounding them as they sat down at a quiet booth by the window. They didn't talk about work that night. Instead, they talked about everything else: family, life before Parker Enterprises, their favorite places to travel, and even their childhood memories. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt like she could be herself without the weight of expectation on her shoulders. As they ate, their conversation shifted to more personal territory. Liam shared stories about his childhood, his struggles growing up in a wealthy family, and the pressure to live up to his father's expectations. Emma listened intently, understanding the weight of those unspoken pressures. "It's hard," Liam said, his voice softer now. "People think that when you have money, everything is easy. But they don't know the sacrifices you make, the loneliness that comes with it." Emma nodded, her heart aching for him. She had always admired Liam's success, but now she was beginning to understand the burdens that came with it. "I can't even imagine," she said quietly. "But you're not alone, Liam. You have people who care about you." Liam looked at her, his eyes searching hers. There was something in his gaze that made Emma's breath catch in her throat. "I know," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But sometimes, even when you're surrounded by people, it still feels like you're alone." The silence between them was thick, heavy with unspoken emotions. Emma felt her heart beat faster, a mixture of sympathy and something deeper tugging at her chest. She didn't know what to say, but she felt compelled to say something. "You don't have to be alone," she said softly. Liam's gaze softened, and he reached across the table, his hand brushing against hers. The contact was electric, sending a shiver down Emma's spine. She looked at him, her breath caught in her throat. For a moment, it felt like the world around them had faded away. It was just the two of them, sitting in that quiet restaurant, sharing a moment of vulnerability. I don't want to be alone, Liam said, his voice hushed. Emma's heart ached as she looked at him, unsure of what to say or do next. She had always kept her emotions guarded, afraid of letting anyone in. But with Liam, it felt different. She wasn't afraid anymore. She reached for his hand, her fingers trembling slightly as she clasped his. For the first time, she didn't feel like she had to hide who she was. She didn't need to pretend to be someone else. With Liam, she could just be Emma. You don't have to be, she said again, her voice steady now. Liam squeezed her hand, a small smile tugging at his lips. Thank you, he said softly. They sat there for a few moments longer, the warmth of their connection filling the space between them. The world outside the window was dark, but inside, Emma felt like she had found something that she hadn't even realized she was searching for. A sense of belonging. As they finished their meal, Liam paid the bill, and they walked out into the night together. The air was cool, but Emma didn't feel the chill. She was warm, content in a way she hadn't been in a long time. As they said their goodbyes outside the restaurant, Liam leaned in slightly, his voice low. I'm glad we did this, he said. Emma smiled, her heart still racing. Me too. And for the first time in a long time, Emma felt like everything was falling into place. She wasn't just a waitress who had stumbled into a new life. She was someone who mattered, who was capable of making an impact. And maybe, just maybe, she was beginning to see that love, too, was within her reach. The days following their dinner together felt like they were walking on a delicate balance. Emma couldn't deny that something had shifted between her and Liam, but there was an underlying tension she couldn't shake. They had grown closer, yes, but with that closeness came a complexity she wasn't prepared for. She had always been careful with her emotions, always held back, afraid of being vulnerable. But with Liam, it felt different. She didn't want to admit it, but she was starting to care for him in a way that went beyond gratitude or friendship. And that terrified her. She couldn't help but wonder if it was just a fleeting feeling, or if Liam felt the same way. Every time they spoke, every time he looked at her, there was something unspoken between them, a quiet intensity that seemed to grow with each passing day. It was during a late meeting at the office that Emma's world was turned upside down. The team had been working tirelessly on a project for weeks, and the final presentation was just around the corner. Emma had been preparing for it for days, ensuring every detail was perfect. She felt more confident now, more capable than ever before, but the pressure was mounting. The stakes were high, and everyone was depending on her to deliver. She had come so far, but now, with the weight of responsibility on her shoulders, she felt herself cracking. Liam had been watching her closely, his usual calm demeanor showing signs of concern. He knew she was under stress, but he also knew she was strong, perhaps too strong for her own good. He had seen her put others before herself, seen her push through even when it felt impossible. But this time, something felt different. After the meeting, as Emma packed up her things, Liam approached her. His presence was calming, yet the tension between them was palpable. Emma, he said softly, you've been working nonstop. I can see it. You're pushing yourself too hard. She looked at him, her exhaustion evident in the way her shoulders slumped. I'm fine, she replied, forcing a smile. I just need to get through this one last thing, and then I'll be okay. Liam studied her for a moment, his eyes full of concern. You're not fine, he said, his voice firm but gentle. And I don't want to see you burn out. Take a step back. I've got you. Her heart skipped a beat at his words. She had always been the one to take care of herself, to handle everything on her own. But now, with Liam standing there, offering her support, it felt different. For the first time, she didn't have to do it alone. I don't know how to stop, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam stepped closer, his gaze never leaving hers. You don't have to do everything by yourself. Let me help. Emma swallowed hard, the weight of her emotions threatening to break through. She had always been afraid of relying on others, of opening up, but here, with Liam, it felt like the right thing to do. For the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to lean into his support. The days that followed were a blur of preparations and late-night brainstorming sessions, but Emma felt lighter. Liam kept his word. He checked in with her, offered encouragement, and made sure she didn't push herself too far. The closer they got to the presentation, the more she realized that the true strength she had found wasn't in her ability to handle everything alone, but in trusting someone else. On the day of the presentation, Emma stood in front of the board, her heart pounding in her chest. She had done the work, and now it was time to show it. But this time, there was no fear, no second-guessing. She felt grounded, supported by Liam's quiet strength. As she delivered her presentation, she felt the confidence she had worked so hard to find. It wasn't just the work she was presenting, it was a part of herself she was putting out there for the first time. And it felt right. When the meeting ended, there was a moment of silence. Emma held her breath, unsure of how it had gone. And then, the room erupted in applause. Liam was the first to stand, his smile wide as he clapped for her. "You did it, Emma," he said, his voice full of pride. Emma smiled, her heart swelling with pride and gratitude. It wasn't just the success of the presentation, it was the realization that she had truly stepped into her own. Liam walked over to her, offering his hand. "I'm proud of you," he said, his voice low. Emma took his hand, her smile growing. "I couldn't have done it without you," she replied. As they walked out of the meeting room together, Emma felt something shift again between them. This wasn't just about work anymore. It was about something deeper, something that had been quietly growing between them since the moment they met. And though she wasn't ready to admit it yet, she knew that what they shared was more than just a professional connection. It was the beginning of something real. As they made their way to the elevator, Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of calm wash over her. She had come so far. Personally, professionally, and now, with Liam by her side, she was ready to face whatever came next. Together, Emma couldn't believe how much had changed in such a short time. Her life at Parker Enterprises was no longer just a job. It was a world she was now fully immersed in. With each passing day, she found herself growing more confident in her abilities. The challenges she once feared now felt like stepping stones, pushing her to new heights. But despite her success at work, the emotions she had been trying to ignore for so long had begun to surface. Her feelings for Liam were undeniable, and the closer they got, the harder it was to keep things strictly professional. They spent more time together, both at work and outside of it, their bond strengthening with each passing day. Whether it was collaborating on a project or sharing quiet moments over dinner, Emma found herself drawn to him in a way she couldn't explain. But as much as she enjoyed their time together, there was always that nagging fear in the back of her mind. What would happen if she acknowledged her feelings? What if it jeopardized everything she had worked so hard for? She had always been careful with her heart, never wanting to risk getting hurt. But with Liam, it felt different. He was kind, supportive, and always there when she needed him. Yet, Emma couldn't help but wonder if he saw her as more than just a colleague, more than just the woman who had helped him that rainy night. One evening, after a long day at the office, Liam invited Emma to join him for a dinner event at a charity gala. It was an event he had been organizing for months, one that would benefit underprivileged youth in the city, and he wanted her to be there, to experience it firsthand. "You've been working hard, Emma," he said, his voice soft but firm. "I want you to come. It'll be good for you to get out of the office for a while." Emma hesitated for a moment, unsure if she was ready for the formality of a gala, but she couldn't resist his invitation. "Okay," she said, a small smile tugging at her lips. "I'll go." The night of the gala, Emma felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety as she stood before her mirror, trying to figure out what to wear. She had always preferred the simplicity of her everyday wardrobe, but tonight was different. This wasn't just a casual dinner. It was an event where powerful people would be, where Liam would be in the spotlight. She chose a simple but elegant black dress, something that would make her feel comfortable while still fitting in with the formal atmosphere. When she arrived at the venue, the grand ballroom took her breath away. The lights were dimmed, casting a soft glow over the room, while the sound of classical music filled the air. There were so many people, successful, polished individuals who seemed to glide effortlessly through the crowd. It was nothing like the quiet coffee shop or the casual dinners they had shared. This was a world Emma was still trying to understand. As she walked into the room, she spotted Liam immediately. He was talking to a group of people near the stage, his tall frame standing out among the crowd. When he saw her, his eyes lit up, and he excused himself from the conversation, making his way toward her. "Emma," he said, his smile warm. "I'm glad you could make it." Emma smiled nervously, feeling out of place amidst the elegant surroundings. It's beautiful in here," she said, trying to hide her nerves. Liam nodded, his gaze never leaving hers. "It is, but it wouldn't be complete without you here," he said, his voice sincere. Emma felt a blush creep up her neck at his words. She had never been good at accepting compliments, especially not from someone like him. "Thank you," she said quietly, her heart racing in her chest. The evening progressed with speeches, auctions, and moments of reflection on the charity's goals. Emma found herself drawn to Liam's presence, watching him interact with others, his confidence unwavering. He moved through the crowd with ease, but every time he returned to her, there was a warmth in his eyes that made her feel seen. It was as if, in the middle of all the power and wealth surrounding them, he only had eyes for her. During the event, as the auctioneer began to call out for bids on a piece of art to benefit the youth program, Liam leaned in close to Emma. "Would you like to make a bid?" he asked, his voice low and playful. Emma looked at the painting, a beautiful piece of abstract art that spoke to her in a way she couldn't quite describe. "I don't know," she replied, laughing softly. "I've never really been to an auction before." Liam smiled and gently took her hand, his touch sending a jolt of electricity through her. "Well, then let's start small," he said. "I'll bid with you." With a sense of excitement, Emma raised her paddle when the bidding began. Liam was right beside her, his hand still holding hers, guiding her through the process. The auction ended with them winning the piece of art, and as they walked to collect it, Emma couldn't help but laugh at how surreal the night had become. "I can't believe we actually did that," she said, still grinning. Liam chuckled, his eyes soft. "I knew you'd enjoy it." As they left the venue later that evening, Emma felt a sense of fulfillment she hadn't expected, not just from the night itself, but from the realization that she was beginning to understand the world Liam inhabited. She was becoming a part of it. As they walked to the car, Liam turned to her, his voice serious but warm. "Emma," he began, his gaze steady, "I need you to know something. I'm really glad you came tonight. You've done more for me than you know." Emma felt a flutter in her chest at his words. I'm glad I came too," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam smiled and placed his hand gently on hers. "This is just the beginning, Emma," he said, "and I'm excited to see where it leads." Emma's life had changed in ways she never imagined. A year ago, she had been a waitress, struggling to make ends meet, unsure of what the future held. Now, she found herself in a place she had only dreamed of, working at Parker Enterprises, growing professionally, and forming a deep connection with Liam that was unlike anything she had ever known. But as much as she had grown, as much as she had found success and confidence, one thing still lingered in the back of her mind: her feelings for Liam. Their connection had been undeniable from the start, and as time went on, it had only deepened. They had spent so many moments together, working late into the night on projects, sharing quiet dinners, and confiding in each other in ways that were both comforting and exhilarating. And yet, despite everything, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. She had never been one to act impulsively, to jump into something without thinking it through, but the more time she spent with Liam, the more she realized that she couldn't deny her feelings for him any longer. She had grown to trust him not only as her boss, but as someone who had become an important part of her life. It was at a company retreat, just as the weekend was winding down, that Emma found herself alone with Liam outside on a balcony, overlooking the city lights. The night air was cool, but the warmth of his presence made her feel at ease. They had been talking about work, but as usual, the conversation shifted. "You know," Liam began, his voice softer than usual, "I've been thinking a lot lately." Emma turned toward him, intrigued by the tone of his voice. "About what?" she asked, her heart skipping a beat. "About everything," he said, his gaze steady as he met her eyes. "About how far we've come. About what's next." Emma smiled slightly, her heart racing in her chest. "We've come a long way," she agreed. There was a pause between them, the quiet hum of the city below filling the silence. Emma could feel the tension building, the weight of unspoken words hanging in the air. She knew that something was about to change between them, but she didn't know how to bridge the gap between the professional relationship they had built and the personal connection they both shared. Liam stepped a little closer, his voice low. "You know, Emma," he began, "I've never met anyone like you." Emma's breath caught in her throat, her heart pounding as she looked up at him. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "I mean," Liam said, taking a step closer, "that you've changed the way I look at things. You've made me realize that there's more to life than work. more than just success or achievements. You've made me believe that maybe, just maybe, there's room for something more. For us. Emma's heart raced as she processed his words. She had never imagined Liam would feel the same way. The man who had given her so many opportunities, the man she had admired from the start, was now telling her that he saw something more between them. I don't know what to say, she murmured, feeling a mix of relief and uncertainty. Liam reached out, gently lifting her chin so that she was looking directly at him. You don't have to say anything, he said softly. Just know that I'm here, Emma. And I want to see where this goes. Emma's breath caught in her throat, her eyes searching his. The connection between them was undeniable, and for the first time, she allowed herself to fully acknowledge the depth of her feelings. I've always been scared, she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. Scared of being vulnerable. Of losing myself in something that might not work. Liam's eyes softened, his hand gently brushing a strand of hair from her face. I get that, he said. But sometimes, Emma, the best things in life come when we take a chance. When we stop being afraid of what might happen and just let ourselves be. I want to be with you, no matter what. I'm not going anywhere. Tears welled up in Emma's eyes as she looked at him, feeling the weight of his words. For so long, she had held back, afraid to let anyone in. But here was Liam, offering her everything she had ever wanted. A chance at love, a chance at something real. And for the first time in a long time, Emma felt like she was finally ready to take that step. Without saying another word, she closed the distance between them, her lips meeting his in a kiss that felt like everything had come full circle. In that moment, Emma realized that the life she had always dreamed of wasn't just about success or recognition. It was about love, connection, and the courage to open her heart. And with Liam by her side, she knew that she was ready to embrace whatever came next. As the night stretched on, they stood together, wrapped in each other's arms, knowing that this was just the beginning. Their journey was far from over, but Emma felt a sense of peace that she had never known before. No matter where life took them, she knew one thing for certain. She wasn't alone anymore. And that was enough. In this heartfelt and inspiring journey, follow the captivating tale of a woman's transformation as she finds herself in an unexpected world of power and opportunity in a millionaire's world. This story unfolds through the lens of Emma, a waitress who has always struggled to make ends meet, until one rainy night when her act of kindness changes everything. After helping a stranger, she soon discovers that the man she assisted is no ordinary person, but a millionaire CEO. With an unexpected proposal. As their paths intertwine, Emma finds herself thrust into a world of high stakes, learning new lessons in both her professional and personal life. This millionaire story takes us through Emma's growth, her moments of self-doubt, and the connections that change her life forever. Along the way, the narrative reveals the challenges she faces in adjusting to her new life, grappling with her feelings for the powerful man who has offered her a new future. The millionaire stories within this narrative explore themes of trust, love, vulnerability, and the courage to embrace the unknown. As Emma navigates her new reality, she learns the value of trust, the importance of stepping outside her comfort zone, and the power of taking chances. With the help of Liam, the millionaire CEO, she embarks on a journey that is both professional and emotional, ultimately realizing that love and success are intertwined in ways she never expected. These millionaire stories not only tell of wealth and power, but also of personal growth, connection, and the challenges that come with them. As Emma finds herself falling deeper into a life she never imagined, she learns that true happiness and fulfillment come not from money, but from love and support. This tale, rich in emotion and transformative moments, is the perfect addition to any collection of millionaire stories, offering readers a glimpse into the life-changing power of kindness and the unexpected paths that open up when you take a leap of faith.